morning, good afternoon to everybody as we celebrate the last day of the breast cancer awareness. Welcome to another edition of ONPASSIVE Weekly Chat with Engineer Mike. I just want to appreciate everybody for signing in from their various destinations, whether they are on Facebook, whether they are on YouTube. And I want to appreciate our panelists for always being here every Mondays and Fridays. Today, oh, we're sorry for the late start. When many people are coming, we need to test the system to see if people are logging properly and all of that before we can start the show. So, sorry about that. Today, we'll be having an interesting topic, as always. Today's topic is unpassive and ecotourism in Africa. So, for us Africans, it's a big one for us. And we'll be having uh, a special guest who will be breaking that for us. Now, to with me on the panel, I have my top left hand side. Please, can you people on the YouTube and here too? Can you shut down the YouTube and it's echoing? Okay, so sorry about that. With me on the panel, um, we'll have first to introduce our able panelists. So our able moderator for tonight will be Queen Mama Debbie McCormick. She is still in Liberia. I can see that, like from Liberia. Welcome, Mama Debbie, and we'll be pleased to have you as our moderator for tonight. Welcome, and we'll be having our a contribution from our own Queen sister, the wife to Unpassive, Dr. Benny Blessing Tingler from Chevy Chase, Maryland, USA, and another contribution from our Queen sister, Dr. Patience Jogwe, who reminded us to be the way we are today with our pink to show solidarity to the women for rounding up the breast cancer awareness month. Thank you, Dr. Pat. We want to say thank you. We want to appreciate you for all you do for Unpassive and the world at large. So, excuse me, I don't have the capability and the strength to introduce who our guest is for tonight. I will hand that to our moderator. But before I hand it over to our moderator, the topic he is bringing to us, the ecosystem, the like ecotourism, unpassive and ecotourism in Africa. What we should know about like ecotourism is that it is just like it's a responsible travel to a natural area that conserves the environment, sustains the well-being of the local population, the local people around, and involves interpretation and education. So education here, both the staff and the guests and everybody that is involved in that circle of business. That is what ecotourism is really is. So if you look at it, has a bridge and a blend with our company Unpassive because those are some of the objectives of our CEO, right? Whose main goal of launching this company in the first place is to uplift humanity and eradicate poverty. So by doing this, ecotourism is one of the biggest aspects that Unpassive will be touching in the world. So we want to take a particular case today to talk about Africa. So over to you, Mama Debbie. I rest my case.
Thank you, Engineer Mike, for giving us this opportunity to share with you again tonight. And yes, you rest your case, but it's not going to be for long. We're going to call on our brother, our wonderful brother, whom most of us see but have not quite met, but you're meeting him in person. He's none other than one of our global ambassador, Francis Tala. Welcome. Who is he? Some people may know him as Papa, some people may know him as Uncle. In this platform, with our African continent, we do not call anyone by their name. We give them that respect because they're human beings that we respect them. That's the tradition in which we were brought up. But a little bit about his background is that he is a trained agricultural engineer. In addition to that, he also has an expertise in curriculum. Curriculum expert is one of his areas of specialization. For his professional experience, oh my goodness, this is the right person we have. He is a teacher of animal sciences at the University of Chang. For those of you who may not know what Chang is, it's one of the largest cities in Cameroon that has a lot of universities, and the weather is very good for agriculture. He's also a researcher at Center for Environment and Development in Maroua. Maroua is another city in the country of Cameroon, for those who may not know. And Maroua is in the northern part, while Chang is in the western part of the country. Our uncle brother Tala is also the director of Regional Wildlife Training College for Francophone Africa. We know that if you're from Africa, you have the Francophone, you have the English, so he's the director of the Francophone side of the continent. In addition, he's also the director and founder of the Central Africa Bushmeat Action Group. So he brings to us all these various aspects of his life that he's going to share with us tonight. So I hope our viewers, you're listening, make your notes on the comments, and when he's finished presenting to us, I'm sure we'll be able to read your questions for him to answer for us. Uncle, you're most welcome. Take your time. The platform is yours, and we're all ears. Over to you, Brother Francis. Once more, welcome.
Every week I hear you 2 days in the week, edifying, teaching, giving us more we have to know about ONPASSIVE and what ONPASSIVE is doing in the world. Being my first time of coming into this medium, I would like to appreciate our founder CEO, Mr. Ash Mufare, his wonderful family, and his world-class tech team. I would also want to appreciate all of you who are here, especially Engineer Mike, and you, the presenters and the moderators, the queens and kings, that I have the pleasure of following every week. Thank you very much for what you do, and keep doing it, because without it, there will be no fire in our organization, in our business. Your forum has talked about a lot of things happening, how Africa can be can grow with ONPASSIVE. Today, I would like to add my little voice to it to talk about the aspects of ecotourism. We know that from divine nature, We are called upon to conserve what God made, the natural resources. Africa, for example, as we know, has a lot of, it's very rich in biodiversity. It is only in Africa today that you can find a large group of wild animals moving freely without control. Only in Africa we can find that today. Africa has about over 1/4 of the world's biodiversity. In Africa, you move from mangroves to desert, passing over a lot of different varieties of environmental ecosystems. In Africa, you find a lot of iconic species: elephants, giraffes, lions. In Africa, you find even aquafauna. If you go into our rivers and our waters, not to talk of sites that are so interesting to watch. All these can help to develop. All these have been proven in Africa to be of great economic value. Some African countries like Egypt, Tanzania, South Africa, Rwanda have shown the world that they can depend on ecotourism to manage their economies. But the question we ask ourselves is, why is it not everywhere in Africa? This is because despite all this great gift from God, we have issues of degradation. Most of the biodiversity has been left to erode. We have habitat loss. Habitat loss in Africa is due to the nature of the farming we do. We do what they call slash and burn in most of our forests. We have urbanization. Forest is being cut to build cities without trees. We have logging. We have to sell timber, but often the logging mechanism, the logging methods we use are such that it does not maintain the forest and therefore the biodiversity. We have issues of climate change. Climate change today, we know, has led to floods. We have a lot of floods these days. We have wildfires. Climate change is affecting the biodiversity of the world, and especially in Africa. Hunting, harvesting of wild animals. There is nothing wrong with hunting, but when you hunt without thinking of future generations, without thinking of having patronizing the species so that our children can see them, can watch them, then there is a problem. Trade. We trade in natural resources, but the problem is, again, not with trade, is the trade that is not sustainable that we have problem with. For example, today we trade in timber, but we don't process the timber. The timber is exported as logs for most parts, and we don't have anything gained. So this decrease in biodiversity is a problem because the countries that are having this biodiversity do not profit, do not have what they have supposed to gain from it. People actually get it out for almost nothing. All this is because of poor governance. We have issues of corruption. laws are made protecting these animals, protecting these trees, or managing these trees so that they should be exported or exploited judiciously and for the benefit of the local population. But because of poor governance, influential people go ahead and sign other unwanted arrangements so that exploitation is done at their benefit and not at the benefit of the countries. So as we see, normally ecotourism is supposed to bring us value, but what is happening that it is not? And how can ONPASSIVE help us? The first thing is that if our local population is empowered, we stand a better chance of having our natural resources trickle down to the populations for their living. But unfortunately, they are not empowered. Why? Because they lack the resources necessary to invest and take advantage of these touristic values. How would ONPASSIVE do here? I'm going to attempt at putting ONPASSIVE, but I know that you here, the panelists here, are better placed to later interwoven to take this and put into ONPASSIVE platform and ONPASSIVE wheel of fortune. So the locals need to be empowered, and I think that ONPASSIVE has one of its objectives is to elevate humanity. And if these local are elevated, they are enhanced, they are empowered, they will be able to invest in touristic activities. One of the things that is blocking ecotourism is infrastructure. ONPASSIVE will have an impact here by improving infrastructure and getting visitors, getting tourists to where these animals, where these very magnificent ecotouristic sites exist. Sometimes tourists go around because they want to have they have to have good lodges. We need good lodges for tourism. We need to build trails. This all go under infrastructure. Engineer Mike already was talking to us about training. Training is very important if we have to take advantage of ecotourism in Africa. And we know what ONPASSIVE is going to bring to us as far as training possibilities are concerned. The other aspect is the aspect of communication, visibility. We have seen the marketing strategies of ONPASSIVE. The world has seen, and there is no second to that. And we need that marketing whenever we have this, we are supposed to build these ecotouristic developments, values. We need that it should be communicated. We need that it should be visible. We need that a system shows it to the world so that the world can come and enjoy it. Of course, I've talked about corruption, and we know that ONPASSIVE is out to correct corruption. It's a big, big problem as far as development in Africa is concerned, and ecotouristic development is not left out. We find a very few enjoying the fruits at the expense of the large majority. Why do locals depend a lot on natural resources? It's because they don't have alternatives. And I think that ONPASSIVE is going to bring those alternatives, that means for populations to have alternatives sources of revenue, alternative sources of protein, and alternative sources of other things that will reduce the pressure that they have on the ecosystem. One of the things that problems in Africa is that Africa has enough potential for tourism. We don't need to get tourists only from outside. I think ONPASSIVE is going to make it possible for Africans to visit Africans through good communication roads, good communication means. And this is something that ONPASSIVE is going to do to help us manage and improve and valorize our ecotourism. I would like to share just two experiences of initiative that I have tried to put in place with, but it never succeeded because of the situation in which we find ourselves in Africa. As a teacher at the Wildlife College in Garawa, one thing I want to say was that most of what you heard today is in the past, because I'm no more researcher, I'm no more teaching at the university, I've retired, so I don't do those things. What I'm doing, I will come to it in a second. So while I was director at the Wildlife College in Garawa, a college for Francophone Africa, we realized that around national parks, children were not they didn't know why the national parks were there for. They didn't know why there was a line that they could not cross. So we decided that we were going to let the children who go to school around the parks go to the park and understand why we have the national parks. So we used to take the children for 2 weeks into the park and teach them about wildlife, show them films. Then they would drive in the park and see wildlife. And by the time they were leaving, each child adopts an animal. This was very interesting for us because it helped the children to understand why the government could put a barrier, why they said people should not go into the park to go and hunt. You can hunt out of the park, but not in the park. Unfortunately, when I left, this program kind of died out because it requires a lot of dedication. It requires a lot of sacrifice. And we didn't have a lot of means to be able to carry children to the park and out. So the program died after me. So since 2017, I started a network of actors working in the area of wildlife management. And we call this group the Central African Bushmeat Action Group. What do we do? All we do is give propaganda. We talk about wildlife that is threatened to extinction. And we try to bring out the laws from every country that have been enacted and try to let the people know about it and try to follow it so that animals may not be extinct. It's not been easy since 1 year because our source of funds was like dwindling. So we reduced it to just communication, exchanges, and sharing information. But these are things that with ONPASSIVE, it will be easy to maintain and to keep alive because people who are not from Africa envy us because we almost command the world's natural resources. But unfortunately, they are mismanaged and it doesn't help us in any way. So I brought this topic so that with your young minds, you would explore it and see how we can improve on ecotourism in Africa so that our humanity will be uplifted even more. Thank you, moderator. I think I will stop here, and if there are any questions, I will answer.
Oh, that was just That was mine. What should I say? Outstanding. I always see your name on the chat. It's so wonderful to hear you talk about what you have done and still doing. That's just something that we cannot get from a textbook, and we're getting it directly from the source, and the source is right here with us, our own very founder. We thank you so much. I'm going to start in no particular order regarding your wildlife project with the bushmeat, but that's just one of several things you mentioned. I'm not even going to go any further with that. Now, all the trainings that you have, the issues that the continent faces, from governance to visibility to no farm to market roads, I'm sure you're still going to continue to do that with the help of ONPASSIVE when the money starts coming in, and your wildlife project with the bushmeat fight will also be going forward, as well as being able to have a place where you can get the children to go back to the parks and the grandchildren to see what people should see normally in the continent, because we're quite blessed with a lot of wildlife, but we don't have that capability of educating the next generation on how to retain and also enjoy it and experience it. But before I say anything, I just want to see if any of our panelists has any observation from your presentation. And then in the meantime, I'll also look in the chat to see if our live viewers had mentioned anything about your presentation. So I'll start with Sister Queen, Dr. Patience. If you have any observation from our wonderful presenter, please. This is the time for you to take over the microphone, Dr. P.
Oh, thank you. Wow, Brother Francis, that one just went over my head. Every day we learn. This is like a whole university. This in my life now has become a whole university. But the problem is I'm learning too many courses at the same time. What a wonderful, fantastic presentation. I see Dr. John is throwing fun facts about Cameroon that I did not even know that we have such a biodiversified ecosystem, even in Cameroon, where I come from. So this is very important. And we're happy that ONPASSIVE is going to come with tools that will help us with education, right? So man like our brother Francis here can put a whole course in Wkly for us to learn about the importance of preservation of our natural ecosystem in Africa, because it only doesn't help to influence our economy, but if we don't do it in a sustainable way, we too are going to lose, and our children will never know about some of these nice natural resources or environment. And sometimes even people back home might not be able to even afford to go and see some of these natural resources or natural park because they cannot afford it. You just talk about carrying the children to the park to teach them the importance of preservation, to teach them the importance of not hunting. I see ONPASSIVE coming with all these communication tools that we can use to even teach our children that are not back in the continent. I see Wkly, I see Connect being used to do these courses. I just see you having our own booking to book for hotspot, because Brother Francis must have put a course and say, hey, do you know this is one, I see Dr. John said Kumpo Park. I never know which one is. The left park I knew before I left Cameroon was a national park because I was close to there. And I don't even know whether that is still even there and preserved. Those are things that we don't really understand the importance. But platforms like this, and ONPASSIVE is going to really give us those platforms. So I wanted to ask a question, but you said so many things. And I see ONPASSIVE giving us the resources to go back there and preserve this. So it sounds like this is dear in your heart, ecotourism. Yeah. So now let's make it in a way that is preserved. So it drive our economy in a more sustainable way instead of just going to deforestation, to killing this wildlife because of hunting for a non-sustainable approach. Right here in the US, people have hunting license to go and hunt deer, but they have a number. They have set number they can hunt in a season, and they cannot do more than that, right? That's why they see preserve it. They're preserving it. They can see hunt deer for venison meat, right? But they don't just go and say, okay, open for all. They have a season and shut it down. So we have to go through that route in Africa. So, Brother Francis, how do you think is the best way for us to put a program in place to preserve these our natural resources and to get people aware and be educated about why preservation is important? It might take some people out of their financial resources because that's how they know. How do we make it such a way that for people that do hunting for a living, they get the importance that yes, you can hunt, but this is how you can live for long term. So what do you think we can put in place? Or do you have any thought that I know with ONPASSIVE giving us the funds, the resources, we can put things in place? What type of things you think we can put in place so when all ONPASSIVE have that, you say, I think it's a wheel of fortune, right? Something like that. Have that wheel of fortune start turning down the fortune. How do we use these resources, these tools to really ensure we can have the natural ecosystem of Africa preserved?
Thank you for your question. I think the first thing is that we need to let them know what is happening, because as we work with locals, sometimes they don't understand that the number of animals in the bush are decreasing. They don't know that. So we need to let them understand that if it continues that way, they are not going to have them anymore. That's one thing we have to do. Then the second thing is that we have to understand what is driving them, because it's not the same in every area. As you go into different areas, there are different driving forces that push them to either extract or to harvest more and more animals. Sometimes it's a pull force. Sometimes it's a push force. And depending on what the force is, then we can try to see what measures to take. Yeah, I think it's not a one action thing. We have to have a number of actions. Just welfare, just people being fine, being okay. Because if somebody knows that it is against the law to hunt a lion, and going to hunt a lion, there's a risk in it. You can be killed. Anything can happen. He would take that risk if he has no other choice. But if he has another choice to get the same satisfaction, I think he will not take the risks of trying to go to the field to go and kill. As I was talking, I didn't go into a lot of details because the problem sometimes is not the fact that they hunt, it's the methods they use in hunting that sometimes we deplore. Because you find people using snares. A hunter may have 500 snares in the forest. He cannot go to those 500 snares every day. What happens? Animals are caught in the snares and they get rotten. So there's wastage. Secondly, the snare does not determine if this is a female, is a male, is a young, is a old, it's a pregnant animal or not. So sometimes you have wastage by killing a female gestating with babies. That's more destruction. So it's all this information, the knowledge of animals, knowledge of how to hunt, what methods to use. Yeah, it will be a package that has to be studied in each case, I think.
Yeah, thank you. I'll hand over to the moderator. So the whole thing is education, and as you said, if somebody is there just for the economic reason, we can provide them that source of resources for them to take care of their family. Maybe they will not do what they're doing, and yeah, targeted. If it's getting wild, yes, we manage the population of the animals, but in a way sustainable manner. Thanks. I think that this is very interesting topic, and this is Africa is actually losing its natural resources because of lack of education, and sometimes because of lack of resources, other means to take care of your family. Thank you for a wonderful presentation today. I learned a lot. As I said, I didn't know I would be going to school every week on this platform. We are doing that. Thanks, Engineer Mike, for bringing our brother on today. Over to you, Mama Mokamek.
Thank you very much, Sister Dr. T, and thank you again, Brother Francis, for that very, very clear response to the question that Dr. Patience had. And yes, you rightfully, I'm going to, before I call on our next panelist, you rightfully mentioned a couple of countries in the continent of Africa, Egypt, South Africa, Rwanda, and Tanzania. I don't know if you left out Kenya on purpose in terms of the tourism.
Not at all. Not at all. Kenya is an example to follow. I've visited
Okay.
the country about twice. Yeah.
All right, because sometimes you may have a hidden reason behind that. And as Dr. Patience mentioned as well, I know that we used to have Waza Park, and you're retired, but Waza Park was in the northern province. I don't know anything about the northern province, but from your experience when you were there, was it actually functioning as a park where you had all those animals that we used to see from calendars that are about 50 plus years old now?
Waza remains for Cameroon one of the best parks for tourism. For one thing, Waza is not covered. It's an open savanna. So if there's wildlife, you see it. Waza's problem started with highway robbery, Coupe de route, and then later on Boko Haram. That's where Waza has problem, but it's coming back slowly. I think the report I had from last year was that the park was beginning to have more lions. I mean, they were having baby lions there. So for the lion to have been able to carry a gestation to term, it means that the conditions are getting better. But the Boko Haram and Coupe de route really gave a big blow to Waza.
That's amazing. Thank you very much. Truly appreciate it. We have more than one panelist here, and I'm not going to bother you for now. I'm going to call on our sister, Queen Sister Dr. Blessing Ntiglet, who is always here with us every Monday and Friday. Over to you, Sister Dr. Benny.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Queen Debbie. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Before I ask any question, I want to really thank Brother Ta. Thank you so much for accepting Engineer Michael's invitation. I really appreciate that. Before I also proceed, I want to thank our Heavenly Father for bringing you and I together
Amen.
this evening. And I'm happy that you're here for us to learn more about ecotourism. I want to thank our Father also for keeping our CEO alive, our visionary, because if it wasn't for him, I would not even know who you are. That this is the fact. I just want that God should protect each and everyone all over the globe. And I would say remarkable presentation. Thank you, Dr. Pat, also for asking him questions about ecotourism. I did not know about ecotourism. There's the question that I have for you. do they have any challenges? What are the challenges and opportunities and ratios between sustainable development of ecotourism and biodiversity conservation in the area of studies based upon the ecotourism?
Yes, of course. A lot of challenges because we are managing two things that tend to contradict. Each time you talk about development, people see the influx of machines, of people, and therefore nature gets the heat. So that's why we talk more on ecotourism and as you rightly put it, sustainable ecotourism. But we have not just to give a name, we have to make sure that it is mainstreamed when we are implementing ecotouristic activities. For example, if you take the case of East Africa, Tanzania, Kenya, one of the problems they have is that they have too many tourists coming like into Serengeti or into other parks at one time, and therefore they kind of with vehicles and everything they affect the ecosystem of the area. They impact it. They compact the soil and things, and certain things the ecosystem changes. So how do you manage in such a way that you keep check on the pressure of tourists on the touristic sites and the touristic animals that they come to see? So that is always a challenge that has to be managed. So you want it to bring money, but you want to restrict the number of visitors at one time so as to maintain the environment. So yes, there are a lot of challenges that they have, and they have to be managed at each time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And I just found something. I mean, this is not really a question, but I just saw some examples of ecotourism that visiting wildlife sanctuary or national park, following the routes and guidelines. That it means that they should have guidelines, right? When you
Exactly.
are okay, they should have guidelines to protect the animals, correct? There should be guidelines.
They protect the animals, but also the animals' habitat. That's why in every park, when you come, they have a visitor center. In the visitor center, you are told what you can do and what you should not do, where you can go and where you cannot go. So that is always at the entrance. Before you get into the park, you enter the visitors center where you are given those instructions.
So when you get there, the instruction, I believe they're going to tell them like the type of when people get there, they will ask them to be very, very careful, and the type of pictures that they will be taking, maybe plants, they should be very careful, right?
Right,
When they're taking those pictures, okay.
right.
And it says staying in a community based on lodge or homestay that will benefit the local people and the aspect for their culture and tradition. So, which means that the people, I mean, whoever is coming, they need to be very careful when it comes to our tradition, right?
Exactly. I think what they also want to add there is that, as we said, if we empower, if ONPASSIVE will empower the local communities, the local communities will also be able to build their own lodges at a cheaper rate and make money from tourism. Because what happens now is that they cannot do it, so they don't benefit from any touristic activities. So with ONPASSIVE, they will be able to have their own lodges. They can show the tradition, prepare it, so that when tourists come, they can invite them into the village and they come and also see their culture. Yeah.
So you think that ONPASSIVE, okay, anyway, since we are all ONPASSIVian, that is why you are bringing this ecotourism, because we are going to utilize our OBLESS in order to help our ecotourism in Africa, correct?
Correct. And it's also helping them to learn how to fish, not giving them fish.
Thank you so much, Brother Tala, for coming. We really appreciate you. This is something that we have to learn more and more. And I know that when it comes to animals in this country, they love animals. So we cannot even play with animals here. Like by killing them, you'll be in trouble in United States. So I believe that's the same thing that we'll carry in Africa. No killing. How about that?
Excellent. No killing.
Thank you. Let me be quiet at the moment. Thank you so much.
Dr. Benny, it's all right. Your discourse with Brother Tala is very valid, and I just want to chime in to say you're absolutely right about not touching any animal in the United States, and let me just say North America, the areas where they have everything very well organized, and the touristic countries. Brother Tala said it all. Now, can you imagine that every part of the world, every part of the continent of Africa, besides the eastern part, which he mentioned, and South Africa, besides Rwanda, Kenya, Tanzania, Egypt, and South Africa, besides those, can you imagine all the other countries if each and every one of them has a wildlife section in that particular country and region? Where do you think the rest of the world will be going to? Instead of flocking into those 4 or 5 places, now it will be diversified, right? And you can have farm to market roads where people can travel easily within countries in the continent. It will even be much easier. And I think that's where Engineer Mike comes in, because he has a lot of school that he's teaching people on a lot of things to do, including this one. But we should not be too worried, because I see that ONPASSIVE is going to help. So that being said, Engineer Mike, what has been your take? But let me just see if Dr. Patience has any other question for our wonderful presenter today before we move forward.
No, thank you, Queen Dr. Smiley. Address that area of, even when you have tourists, sometimes the native as well doesn't even benefit from the touristic revenue that comes in their community. So even how to protect the native, that you have this influx of tourism. Also how to even protect the animals and the inhabitants. Yes, so I think Queen Benny handled that one, that as you're coming into a park, you have all the do's and don'ts, what to feed and not to feed, what to give the animals and not to give the animals, all of those things. And another thing is for us to really, you talk about teaching them how to fish, brother. Let them benefit from even the tourism. The community where the touristic site are sometimes doesn't even benefit. So we have to make them see the benefit. They have some of the benefit from people coming to view these natural resources that they have. They don't even benefit from it. So as we're teaching them how to fish, that should sometimes be part of our formula, to be honest. And yes, restricting the number of tourists we have as well, protecting the inhabitants of the animal safety themselves, all is very crucial to really maintain this our diversified ecosystem, environmental ecosystem. I think you touch on development and preservation, the right balance.
Yes.
What is the right balance? I think if I go ask that question, I was afraid to ask that question. It could be a whole lecture, maybe it's a whole semester of lecture.
Yes.
What is the right balance to have development Because none of us here would give up our cell phone or our electricity and all of that. We don't want our house to be surrounded by a lot of trees. But what is that right balance? Because you need tree for the oxidation, deforestation also take away the clean air. That right balance, what is it? What is the right balance for development and preservation?
It depends on every context. I think that we can generalize a balance level or a balance point. For example, you talked about locals not benefiting from tourism. If they don't see any benefit, they will never participate. So that's where the training has to come. They have they have to see that it is possible for them to benefit from it, either through exchange visits to countries where local populations are doing that, or by using video conferencing, and they can see what others are doing. And the second thing is that we have to be able to empower them, because it will require certain resources for them to put themselves in a position to get the benefits, because sometimes you need to have like a community hall or a community lodge or a community something that you can now exchange and for revenue and offer for services. So that's it. The balance is not there's no line that you can see very clearly. You have to look at it in every situation and try to find out. And how you observe is that nobody is being strained. You try to make sure that as it's happening, nobody is being strained, and that people are honest talking to each other, because that's always the point. We come and say, okay, we're coming just for you, but in the end, people fill their pockets with stuff and then disappear. So when you do that, you lose confidence, and people don't believe in you. So it's very important to be honest with them, to be clear with them, to make sure that they see, also because they are very smart. They know what's happening. So don't think that because you're coming with a lot of words and a lot of things, that no, they know. They have lived there, they have grown there, and they see changes for themselves. So just being honest with them will help us to get to that balance, to that point between development and ecotourism.
Yeah, thanks. It looks like continuous assessment, right?
Yeah,
Re-evaluation
exactly.
when you're performing development, continuous assessment and re-evaluation of the situation will help us to get the right balance. Thanks. That makes sense. Thank you for your for really educating us tonight, to be honest. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mama Dr. P, and thank you, Brother Tyler. Wow, it seems so. With all the questions that the panelists have for you and everyone in live, we may have to ask you to come back for part 2 of this session. But Brother Engineer Mike, the teacher of the century in our ONPASSIVE family, thank you so much for picking this topic, and for, I think our brother is the one who came with it. Uncle, thank you. Thank you. It's very educational, and you've taken ONPASSIVE and the ecotourism to a level that I haven't seen since Engineer Mike started his life. This is a very, very touchy topic. And you know how many generations are affected, right? Depending on where you grew up, you probably saw some animals and now you no longer see them. So how can you tell your children and the next generation about what you grew up seeing if this does not exist? So with that, I'll pass it over to Engineer Mike. So I know he just sits there and listens, but he's absorbing everything. And then he's going to give us another lecture for, as Mama Dr. Patient said, for one whole semester, we'll listen to him. Engineer Mike, thank you. Thank you for bringing Brother Tala today. We learned a lot, and so to the audience. So I'm passing the microphone to you.
But Debbie, I thought you were just leaving me so that I should just go to the. Our big brother has just told us everything. Why can't you just let me be today? Oh my Jesus!
How can you have a student and the teacher, and then the principal would not appreciate what the student did? You're the
Okay,
principal,
that's
so
true
over
though.
to you.
That's true, Mama Debbie. Thank you. Uncle Francis, I want to say thank you for coming here because my goal in ONPASSIVE has always been that people with their various specialties come and present like this. That's why we always ask people for on the chat. Please, if you have a topic that you want, get to us and you come and present to us. Let people learn. It's not only about technology all the time. No, it's not. It's not only about technology, right? This is ecotourism. We just learned a whole lesson about ecotourism for people who did not know much about it before, right? So, but some people like myself, I have a broad knowledge, right? I do a lot of research, a lot of things too, right? So most of those things I will always have an input to add there. Thank you very much, Uncle Francis. Like I'm saying, people, if you have your topics, your specialties that you want to come present, these are all of us here. Dr. Benny is here, Mama Debbie, uh, Dr. Pat is there, right? All the other panelists who are not here today, Mama Ivy, Jennifer Dickinson, you can reach out to them. Listra is sick. She will join us soon back. Naka is there. So any person that you are connected to, and Joyce Hicks, reach out to them. When you reach out to them, you will come present to us like our big brother just did tonight. Thank you, sir. So if you look at it again, the broader scope of the ecotourism, you will see also that he's talking about the way the hunters, the poachers, they're doing the poaching and all of that, destroying the habitat as well of these creatures, right? If you look at it again, 99.999% of every medicinal product that you have out, the be it drugs on tablets or whatever, they're coming out from this ecosystem, right? From the bush, from the trees, the bark of trees, the leaves of trees, all of them. So if we are depending on them for our cure, if we go on, keep on destroying them, the worst thing is when you go to Africa and you see how the Lebanese people are, are getting timber, you will cry. You will cry. I don't know if there are not regulations, there are not laws in countries protecting all of this. When you see how oh God, people need to really go and see it. You will cry. The manner of which they are destroying. I don't know if it's really like even the logs that they want, they will take it. Even the ones that they don't, they will still cut it and destroy it. And if you see how violent those machines are, you'll be like, oh my Jesus, the ecosystem is crying. Yeah. Every day they talk about greenhouse gas effect and all of those things, and emission and all of those things. We are here, the seasons are changing. Sometimes when it is hot, you see that climates will go so high. When it is low, you see like a lot of things are going on now, right? So, but all of this is because the ecosystem is being jeopardized with. They're playing with it. They're jeopardized. They play with a lot of. So, what we used to have as a complete ecosystem is no more complete because we don't have. There are already some species are already extinct, right? Some species are already extinct. You cannot find them again in any of those places, right? They'll tell you, oh, we don't have this species, and you think it's a joke, but it's true. I've been to some of those places, and I can assure you that I've seen the statistics, and they are not welcoming. So what we'll say is using our ecosystem, and taking it down to the neighborhoods all around the globe, especially Africa. I would always say, especially Africa. Africa, Southeast Asia, okay, South America, the Latinos, right? Southeast Asia, all those places, and Eastern Europe, Latvia, those small countries. Those are the places that are hit with all of this. So if we have a rule that if these people, like Uncle Francis' passion is ecotourism, if he creates his group of ecotourism and gets 1, 2, 3 ambassadors all around the globe, they move from country to country to put in these laws in place, because the laws are not in place. This is where the habitat are being destroyed. The habitats and the creatures and the species are being destroyed because there's no law in place. So we know poaching is bad. It's bad. Poaching is just a way that is bad because they're doing it in an unregulated way, right? But if it is regulated, people can go and poach, can go to the places like Uncle Francis say. When you go to his like to Wada, you will see where they say, "Oh, don't go here, don't go this way," and all those things. But are people following it? So, which means, guards, we need to have people who are there on alert all the time to always remind people, right? He's talking about what we call in economic, Mama Debbie, in project management, social corporate responsibilities. All those people who they have these reserves, okay, they don't treat them well, right? They don't give them royalties. It is their land. They don't give them royalties and all of those things. But if this thing is regulated in a way that these people have some royalties, that they are giving their reserve to the nation, and people, visitors come there worldwide, and try to see what they have in those reserves, right? So getting it regulated, everything is regulation. If it is regulated, it will be fine, because all of the sector is not regulated. That's how we're having a lot of problems with it, right? So getting into order, getting into our ecosystem, to bring our ecosystem to all of these nations so that they can understand what we have, and we can use our ecosystem now to regulate. Because remember, any project that is going to go to OBLES has some rules to follow. You will not just go and say, "Oh, I want to go." You don't want to. You will not go and put it in your on the OBLES project that I want to build a house, right? Those are not the kind of things. So the OBLES will be regulated to 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 help the community move forward, right? Forge forward. It's not about us. I want to build a house. Okay, fine. Go put it there. Nobody will ever look at it because that's not a project, right? So these things, when there is regulation, everything will be put in place and it will be easily managed at that time. But when there's no regulation, that is when we have a lot of problems, right? So I just want to thank Uncle Francis. Like I say again, any person that is people, if you have your specialty, you want to come talk about it, just let us know. Hit us up. We're just on the chat here talking of everything there. Uncle Francis say, "Hey, Uncle Mike, Engineer Mike, have you people talked about ecotourism in Africa?" I say, "No." I say, "You got it." So he's here today telling us, giving us an insight of ecotourism. Can you imagine? Many people have learned something tonight, right? So I just encourage everybody, if you have one of such, come with us. Come here, share it with us. Come to us and share it with us. And share it with so that everybody can learn. A non-passive will learn every day. Dr. Pat, I just told you she went for how many sessions today, Dr. Pat? How many classes? How many classes were those? How many classes did you learn?
Oh, Engineer Mike,
It was a
I've
2-in-1
done.
or 3-in-1.
One
I've
semester.
done. You've put a whole semester in an hour. There's a lot of learning.
Okay.
That's why my mama coming the moderator said we need our brother to come back for part 2,
For
maybe
part 2.
three, maybe
Okay.
part 3, and break it down because some of us, our own brains are like.
I
So
know, right?
this is a whole semester course that we're doing for 1 hour, but this is great though. It's very informative.
Mm.
I'm like Dr. B. I was like, what is biodiversity in natural resources? And I got it today. At least I have a understanding of what it is and what the environmental ecosystem, what does it entail. It's a lot of things, right? It's not only the water, it's not only the forest, it's not only the animal, it's everything put together. And
Yeah.
we have to make it sustainable so that it balances, right? You said it. If we take away the balance of the environmental ecosystem, we talk about global warming. It's all because we're taking away the balance of what God had put together in a beautiful way. We've come now, we're taking something out.
Yeah.
Each aspect has something to contribute, and we're taking some of them out, and that's
Right.
why we're having global warming. I see my brother want to add on what I just said, right? Go ahead, Brother Francis.
No, I say you are just right, because what's happening even in the ocean with the phytoplankton affects us outside. So it's as we say, it's a global connection. It's an entity that God made it, and so that it was good. But we see that it's not good, and we start removing parts of the ecosystem to suit us, and then it creates problems for ourselves. So we're shooting ourselves on the foot.
Wow. Thank you, Engineer Mike. Thank you, Dr. Benny. I will say, Brother Francis, we appreciate you. We want to give you this opportunity to give your last word to our viewers. Please, give us your last word. And thank you once more.
My last word is just a word of thanks. As I say, I follow you every week, and I, when I start following, it's like, oh, it's finished. You always surprise me when it's finished, because we are expecting to get more from you guys. So thank you very much, and keep doing what you are doing, and know that you are really making people understand a lot of things, and you are keeping our fire really burning. And we have no other word but a word of thanks to say that with the leadership of Engineer Mike, you people should keep on doing this great work you are doing. Thank you very much.
We appreciate having you, and we thank you equally, because you've educated the entire community now. That fish is not just in one pot. It's now we've learned how to be doing our fishing on our own from this one semester class that you've shared with us today. We appreciate you. Thank you, Dr. Benny. Thank you, Dr. Patience. And thank you, Engineer Mike. And thank you to our wonderful live viewers. We always cherish seeing you. And I see that our Sister Helen Tala is in the forum as well. So that's awesome. We have 2 in 1, right? Thank you all again once more. And we need to win it. We are in it to win it. And we'll be seeing you again on Friday.
Yes.
We're in it to
In
win
it
it.
to
See
win
you
it.
on Friday.
Need to win it.
We'll be having another